Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2015, and with us today is a guy who came, he saw, and he mined some Bitcoins. It is Panama Orange. Panama, how are you?
Good, Don.
You a big Bitcoin miner?
I presume that the Bitcoin mining process, does that include just trying to figure out which exchange to use and moving your mouse? Every time I move my mouse, I'm mining Bitcoin, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Every time you move your mouse, you're mining Bitcoins.
Then I'm well on the way.
Did you happen to watch the Super Bowl?
I didn't. I don't really watch pro sports. I'm big into intramural. I like the
flag football?
Well, if I'm not doing it, I'm not interested. So.
Oh, I got you. What about kickball? You play a lot of kickball?
God, when I was 7, I think. I'm not even sure what the rules of kickball are. Isn't it like soccer, but with the red ball that when you kick it, it goes much faster and just almost takes your head off? We think it's safer for kids, but the ball in kickball is going 100 miles per hour. So it's actually
that generic super rubbery red all-purpose ball.
Right.
If you didn't watch
sell out of the vending machines for a quarter, and you'd play with it for 3 seconds, and it would just go flying off to the moon.
The one thing you missed if you didn't watch the Super Bowl was you missed Katy Perry at halftime. Her and Lenny Kravitz had a little duet. It was about 15 seconds or so. At one point, she was grinding her posterior up against his. What's the opposite of posterior? Frontier? I don't know what you call it.
Anterior?
Anterior. There you go. Her posterior was ground into his anterior, and we learned something very interesting on Super Bowl halftime show. We learned that Katy Perry and Lenny Kravitz both like to kiss girls.
The only part about it I saw was the sharks giving the Nazi salute, but that was...
Is that what they did?
It's pretty obvious.
Speaking of pretty obvious, the market today was up 300 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average made a move up today of 305 to be exact, 305.36. I guess it's all over. Whatever was happening is over now. Is that right?
Well, it's up. We went up almost 650 points from the lows yesterday because oil bounced 20%. And also, but more importantly, Greece is fixed again. There's going to be some kind of deal with Greece, which we've been told at least 8 times in the last 5 years. I can't count how many times we've been told Greece is fixed.
Now, I didn't realize this. Greece is still an actual country?
Greece is, when people were panicking about Greece at the lows, Greece is the only place in Europe really that I'd visit. I mean, it's the nicest part of Europe. So this idea that it has no assets is kind of absurd. It is an asset.
Well, now, if you do go to Greece, then it's gonna, you'll need to make sure you have with you a couple barter bags full of silver, because that's all they accept for payment down there now. They only accept gold, silver, and of course gold 2.0 bitcoins, because after the bail-ins and the freaking out, they clearly have moved to that economy, right? They're clearly now just exchanging hard money, silver and gold.
Right. Well, there were all these rumors, even on Zero Hedge and every YouTube channel, that Greece was going to embrace Russia and be welcomed into Russia's embrace, and Russia was going to come in and save them. And I guess that didn't work out again. But yesterday I posted. Before this crazy surge, I said, well, you don't want to short anything until the IWM is 118 again. And we closed 118.80, but I certainly wasn't advocating shorting anything down there. Now up here, as I'm talking to you, with the Dow back to crazy levels here and hitting its 50-day moving, 50-day simple moving average, not the exponential, the SMA on the daily chart. Also, it's got this rounding top resistance it's coming into. You could also call the daily chart a bearish descending triangle. So there's a lot of different, it's almost like a Rorschach test. You can look at the daily chart of the Dow and see 3 different potential bearish patterns here. So let's see, the actual closing print on the Dow, on the big index. The one that only Bob Pisani watches, that would be 17666.
That's right. I was going to ask you, do you read anything into the 17666 number?
No, I don't think there's anyone. It's kind of like in a video you did months ago. There's no one at the wheel right now. The volume is so low. But the idea that anyone is getting more... If you're out there getting more confident about a market that moves up 600 points at a 90-degree angle on ridiculous news, or news we've been handed for years and years. I mean, the more important thing, and this is something everyone's stopped talking about, was the fact that consumer spending came out yesterday, weakest since 2009 for last month.
Yeah.
For actually, let me pull up the Bloomberg article here, give you the exact details.
Now, but I think what the folks that are loving the market at these levels would say is that indicates more QE ahead. They'll print more money, and that's good for the markets. In the same way, they'd say...
Both spent all morning saying we're going to raise rates. There's no points in keeping rates this low. More QE wouldn't do anything, which is a point I made in the last video we did.
Who said that? Who said that?
Huh? Bullard.
Bullard.
The Fed's Bullard this morning.
Okay.
I mean, he was extremely hawkish this morning, and is making the point that with rates this low already, in fact, with the 30-year Treasury yield falling like 40% in a straight line over the last year, there's QE wouldn't do anything. If they came out tomorrow and said we're doing QE 4, 5, and 6,
well, it
would mean nothing.
Well, the only way that QE does something is if they start giving money to the people and they start going out and buying things. That's the only way. That everything else is just moving money around balance sheets, or So
I'm still waiting for that to happen in Japan, where QE, the money is supposed to go to the people. Back when Vanilla Ice wasn't building houses for the Amish, he was actually saying that's back when QE was supposed to fix Japan.
By the way, speaking of the Amish, last night at the dinner table, and I have a beard. I haven't been on camera in a while, so people wouldn't know this, but I have a beard, as I've had many times, sometimes long, sometimes not long, but it's kind of mid-level length right now, maybe an inch or so, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm at the dinner table, and of course, I grow my mustache out as well.
Well, wait, you know what that means? We got to call you the Bitcoin Bin Laden.
What? Why would you call me the Bitcoin Bin Laden? Does he have a beard?
Beard out. I was looking at you remember that depressing picture of Bin Laden sitting on the floor watching that little 13-inch TV? That was a picture his own organization put out, like a propaganda picture. Like, look at our amazing leader just sitting on the floor with the long beard watching the dinky TV.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, actually, where I'm going with this, I think that you'll come up with a different name for me. So at the dinner table, I'm sitting there, and last night for dinner we had a delicious and halfway healthy meal of fish sticks on homemade bread sandwiches with mayonnaise and ketchup. And anyway, we're eating this fairly nondescript 1975 style meal, and I kept getting ketchup and mayonnaise in my mustache. It was a pain in the butt, And one of my kids looked at me and said, "Man, you keep getting food in your mustache." And my wife said, "You're getting food in your mustache." So in the middle of the meal, I literally stood up, walked to the bathroom, got my my hair trimmers, and completely shaved off my mustache, but kept the beard. And I arrived back at the table.
Electric trimmer, I hope?
Yes, it was an electric trimmer. So I arrived back.
The best thing to lubricate electric trimmer, olive oil. No kidding.
I'll remember that.
That's what I use that on my my electric razor and on my trimmer for my hair. So,
well, I sat back down, and just your point about the Amish. You mentioned Vanilla Ice and building houses for Amish people.
Right.
Well, I now look like a Abe Lincoln. If I just had the hat, I look completely Amish, Quaker, Mennonite. So I don't know. I guess instead of Chili D, what would we call me?
The Bitcoin Barn Raiser.
Everybody, right now it is Panama Orange. You can find him at twitter.com/Panama Orange, twitter.com/Panama Orange. So you're saying Bullard is hawkish, raising rates are on the way, etc., and that QE
He's not the only Fed member that's been talking hawkish. I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. No, so you're just saying that people holding out for more quantitative easing are holding out for the wrong thing.
Well, apparently some other Fed member came out after closed today and said something dovish, which, you know, you'll hear everyone on YouTube say, oh, that's it, look, QE4 is coming. Well, if you have 2 or 3 people saying hawkish things and one guy saying something dovish, and again, let's say as I'm talking to you right now, there's breaking news on TV. They come out and they announce QE4. Again, with rates this low, what effect would that even have? It would be so pointless.
Well, again, it won't have any effect as long as they're not handing money to people in bags, or, you know, I don't know. Unless the money circulates. Now, my contention is that it will happen, but it will happen when they begin to raise interest rates, and we've been down that road.
Right, and I think, you know, a lot of people have been. I've looked at all these hand-wringing articles. Why aren't wages going up? How come nobody's raising wages? Well,
so, by the way, real quick, just for the fun of it, say raising wages 10 times fast.
Raising wages 10 times fast. There, I got you.
Go ahead.
This idea, the automation puts negative pressure on wages. That's just a fact. If you've got a person who's complaining about their wages and you have a way of replacing them with a machine or a cloud server or a touchscreen kiosk, and we've talked about this before, about how if you work in the customer service industry, which is a huge part of jobs in this country, they've either replaced you with an app or some kind of touchscreen kiosk or a cloud server, or they're literally on the verge of doing it, like within the next 5 to 10 years. Doing it now with all these pilot programs. They're doing everything they can not to have people employed, to just go around you. I mean, look at Amazon. They're automating their warehouses, which is horrifying considering how many small and medium retail businesses do not exist anymore because Amazon just plowed through them, losing money to sell products while Wall Street funds their bills. Well, while they keep the tab running, Amazon just dumps cheap products on us, saturates us. And who the hell can compete with those prices at Amazon? What possible medium, even these big box places, Best Buy, can barely compete with
we talked about Amazon last time, and I got a lot of feedback from folks who agreed, but it is mystifying that although you're correct about that, but that's been the case with Amazon for a long time. Here's something that people may not have noticed about Amazon, and I didn't realize this until I just looked at the chart. Did you realize that Amazon moved down from 410 to 280 in the span of about 4 months last year? Wow.
Tesla had a real sharp move down. A few different things did.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah.
They're not a profitable business. Amazon.
That's right. So that Amazon model is both bad in terms. You have to believe that there's some other reason to own the stock than they're profitable, which would defy all logic in terms of why you invest in something. But then the thing that they're doing and they're being rewarded for is actually destroying the economy. That mentality of just drive prices lower and drive jobs out. So it's bad on all fronts. You're investing in something that's losing money, and if you do, you're rewarding somebody who's throwing people out of jobs. How's that a positive? I just philosophically can't figure out how that's a good thing for us.
Well, it's not. It's created a culture in stores of just trying to match prices, trying to have you come through the door with the Amazon ad in your hands, and the clerk looks at it and goes, "Okay, I'll give you the same price." Not charging too much for this blender.
That's right. And wait, hold on. And on that point, Walmart. I saw an ad for Walmart the other day where they said, "Bring in the coupons from any competitor, and we'll match not only their prices but their deals, whatever their specials are." And so, it's just ruthless.
It's the automation we're seeing is part of the thing that's causing deflation. It's part of the thing that's accelerating deflation. Lower wages, it's cheaper to make things, and that is, the trend. It's hard to beat. When I've got 2 charging docks for 2 different Android devices, I have 2 different phones, and I bought them at Dollar Tree for $1. These are charging docks, where you sit it up vertically in there. I've had them for 6 months. They have yet to break on me. Now, why on earth, if I go through the doors of Best Buy, I'm not going to spend $10 or $12 on a charging dock unless you're paying that clerk and giving him motivation to upsell me to say, "Hey, come over here and buy this $12 dock. It's right. It won't slip off the counter and hit your cat in the head. That Dollar Tree, it'll decapitate your cat." So these we've got these clerks that are so underpaid and overworked and have no motivation to upsell anything. So what just happened to Radio Shack? That's a great example. Radio Shack used to be known as the place where you go in there and the clerks were very knowledgeable.
I thought, by the way, I thought Radio Shack, just let me interject something here about Radio Shack. I thought Radio Shack in 2013 was going to get on the right track. I thought that the way that they upgraded their stores, I thought that now they were way late in making that move. But I thought they made some good moves to try to compete, and they've just been decimated. I mean, they're 24 cents a share now. I think they'll probably go the way of Kmart, don't you think? Or Sears, where they go bankrupt and they go out of business, but then they come back and basically the shareholders get screwed, and Radio Shack comes back. Is that?
Well, it's getting to the point where, and you look at all the people giving the CEO of McDonald's trouble right now, and look at people who've gone after whoever's running Target, the people running all these brick and mortar stores, and you see all these things where a brick and mortar store, they try 20 different strategies. At the end of the day, they're still getting their ass kicked. And then it always comes down to on CNBC, oh, it's because the CEO is an idiot. And I'm like, haven't we just learned that no matter how you manage a brick and mortar store in 2015, you just basically can't make money?
You're right. Well, let me ask you this question about Walmart, Target, McDonald's, all these companies. When you look at long-term charts, and we'll go back, looking at McDonald's right now, you go back to 1985, McDonald's was at $4.80 a share. It's at 93 right now, within $10 of an all-time high. Walmart has gone in 1985, 30 years ago, from $1 to 86 right now. Again, within just 4 or 5 points of all-time highs. Target has gone in 1985 from $3 to 76. And do these companies, I'm trying to ask myself, wow, why would I buy these companies here? Just at all-time highs like this, why would I buy them?
Well, the question is, what could they possibly do to get profitable again? And you're going to need rising margin in products. And again, margin is being destroyed by automation. And that trend isn't going to, the $40 Android tablet I bought back during Black Friday, I kept my receipt, I kept every piece of paper, I kept the box. I expected to be returning that thing in a week. I was going to play around and see, okay, can a $40 tablet even work? Can I even do anything on it? And I still use that thing this day as often as my. Well, there
were also people when you made the video talking about your $40 Android who said that you were buying junk that wasn't going to work.
Well, here's the one thing: it's got an LCD screen. So just like my big screen TV I bought in 2005, actually 2006, my DLP was like a 50-inch. It's only it's not as good looking as a LED screen. But if they had put an LED screen in there, it would have been $80, $90. Now, if you want to spend $80 or $70, you can get an LED screened Android tablet. And with the exception of the screen, everything else on this tablet, the 2 cameras, the processor, the OS, which is Android 4.4.2, which is basically state of the art. Yeah, Android 5.0 came out a few months ago. Very few phones even have it yet. Mm. But the point is, this thing can run any app I throw at it. I watch HD movies on here.
So what does that say then to you about, Apple stock, which as of this recording is near about 1% of an all-time high, literally as I'm talking to you?
Well, I'll give you one example of Apple's sort of insanity. I've got a stepdad who wants the new iPhone 6 when he upgrades because he's he's older and his friends have Apple phones at his job. He's on the police in Chicago. And it's just he wants to go back to Apple. And I'm looking at some of the iPhone 6s. They're 16 gigabytes. Yeah, it's $199 for the 2-year contract, but 16 gigabyte of memory in 2015 is a ridiculously tiny amount of memory. The phone I'm talking to you right now, this Galaxy S3, which I got years ago, this thing has 16 gigabytes of memory, and that was standard with the phone back then. And people have talked about this. Apple, if you even want to get a decent amount of memory in that thing, you have to pay. They charge, like for the 32 gig, that's like another $100. Whereas on my Android phone, I go and get a little SD card, pop it in there, and I can have 64 gig of memory for like $25. And they overcharge for everything. And the point I've made about Apple is, if you talked to me in 2011, the amount of money Apple charged was kind of worth it. In 2015, it's not at all. In fact, you look at the specs in like the iPhone 6, every single spec is either the same or inferior to the Android phone that came out 6 months before it.
But what about, I mean, you've talked about technology a lot, and I get your comments there. But what about companies like, as I call it, Chipotle? CMG hit 726 today. Wow. I mean, you look at this chart and you go, what? I mean, these companies' share prices are just going ballistic on what you've reported as consumer spending is dropping. People don't have any money. Velocity of money is down, etc. Why are these companies like, Chipotle, as I call them? Save your comments. I know I'm pronouncing it. My pronunciation is wrong. Why in the world would someone buy Chipotle at 726? Why? What would give you the rationale to buy here?
Well, look what happened to Shake Shack. You had that IPO pop, and then it just absolutely crashed from that IPO pop. The thing about Chipotle is, if you work in finance, it's considered acceptable to eat at Chipotle. That is like considered slumming. That is the cheapest thing you're allowed to buy and still be considered cool or financially well off.
But by the way, on Shake Shack, that's just the weirdest. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know what Shake Shack is.
It's a friend. We don't even have them here yet. We have a bunch of overpriced, ridiculous places like Five Guys, where I got food poisoning a few weeks ago. We have M Burger. We have Meatheads. There's like 5 different overpriced hamburger places that have opened up around here in the last 2 years. I've tried all of them, and they're all completely overrated. It's like, here's a hamburger. It's $10. They can't tell you why it's $10. You're just supposed to accept there's something special about it. That's grass-fed beef. I guess the other places are feeding the cows, the chickens, or they're just the cows are living in like a machine farm, like from the Matrix, floating in goo. I'll tell you though, the cows that come from the Matrix machines, I don't notice the taste difference. I don't notice.
Shake Shack reminds me of the Saturday Night Live commercial for Taco Town. Don't know if you ever saw that. So, but hold on. Wait.
Do in parentheses, just to something about Apple, and this might have been the video this other video we did that's been deleted or blocked, or we won't go there. But the main thing about Apple is they keep talking about the number of phones they've sold. And we've sold 70 million, some huge number, except you look at the number of Android phones that were sold last year. I don't know if I've told you this yet, but guess how many Android phones were sold last year or shipped?
You actually told me. I know the number, and it is unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable, and I'll let you say it for effect. But
it's 1 billion.
1 million?
With a B. 1 billion with a B. And they're like 83% of market share. If you look at Apple's numbers, but if you don't put the number of Android phones sold next to it, you can't even put it in context. The adoption of smartphones around the world, and I mean in the poor any third world country you name, everyone's going to smartphones.
Oh, by the way, no, not Taco Town, Sub Shack. That's what it was. Shake Shack reminds me of Sub Shack. Have you seen that Saturday Night Live skit?
I used to love their Taco Bell parody where everything was just iceberg lettuce, mayonnaise. it's everything at Taco Bell, just lettuce and mayonnaise. And
Sub Shack is what it is. It's Sub Shack. You gotta go and find the Sub Shack Saturday Night Live. It's hilarious. That's what I think of when I. In fact, let me send you a link to that real quick, just to make sure you have it.
I will find that skit. But the thing is, I'll tell you right now, this M Burger, one of their things is, look at our great shakes. And I'm thinking, okay, most of this country is cold like 8 months of the year. And people in winter, who is lining up in winter to get milkshakes? I know this is like something in New York. And in New York, they'll line up for anything. They open something with cupcakes and say they're artisan cupcakes, and people will line up.
By the way, you know if something's got the word artisan in it, you're getting ready to pay 4 or 5 times for it.
There's a skit on Portlandia, artisan, those artsy movie theaters like Artisan Popcorn, Artisan drinks. But the thing that people are lining up in the cold to drink milkshakes, like shivering in the cold, drinking their $6 milkshake.
By the way, isn't that the trend in retail, that people are being convinced to pay more and more for what's ostensibly a sandwich or a milkshake or whatever? I mean, I think that Starbucks were definite trendsetters in that way. I mean, seriously,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, why is Chipotle doing so well? They've got a niche that really isn't being matched in that price range, the $8 to $10 price range. Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, their food is really bad.
Wait, hold on. Wait. You're saying, Starbucks. You're saying, okay, and I, in full disclosure, I've never, ever had a cup of coffee. In fact, I don't drink coffee anyway. So, you're telling me that at Starbucks, they actually sell cups of coffee or some drink of some sort that's $8 to $10 for a beverage?
Well, here's what's nuts. You can go down to your local grocery store, buy the Starbucks Keurig K-Cups, and load them into your coffee machine. And that coffee in those K-Cups, it's sealed, is fresher than whatever they make for you there at Starbucks, if you're just drinking the coffee. Now, if you want their elaborate latte, mocha, cream, then you can't make those at home quite as easily. But if you're just drinking the coffee, you might as well buy the Keurig cups, even though they're more expensive than the other cups, because it's the same damn coffee, and it's actually fresher because it's sealed in the little container before you even drink it. But the question is, we do have a certain portion of the population whose net worth has gone up tremendously, and they will eat. And there's other people in the upper middle class that go there just to be trendy. I mean, you got to think, there's a lot of people who shop at Whole Foods who would not be at Whole Foods of their own volition. They would not just walk in there if you called it, Henry's Organic Market. They look at the prices and go, oh my God, screw this. But because it's called Whole Foods or because it's called Chipotle, some of it is sort of a social, you're doing it to look richer than you are, or you're doing it to feel rich. It's a weird psychological sort of thing that's kind of difficult to understand. But the question is, are people as a whole in this country getting wealthier? And we know absolutely that is not true. I mean, wages are not rising at all. There was that poll recently, like 2/3 of the country couldn't afford $500 in an emergency.
Right.
I mean, Jesus Christ, that's one shopping cart at Whole Foods.
Right, that's right.
So like 2/3 of the country can't afford a shop. If you asked 2/3 of the country, hey, could you go to Whole Foods right now and fill a shopping cart, they'd be bankrupt. They could not even do that. So it's like, when people in certain wealthy areas who manage a lot of money, when they look at the local Chipotle and it's packed, and Starbucks is packed, and Shake and anything else.
By the way, speaking of Starbucks, I loved his work on Battlestar Galactica. Did you?
God, there's a Portlandia skit. It's called One More Episode, where they get the box set of every Battlestar Galactica, and they watch one, and then they watch another, and you got to see it. But it's just they end up there for like 3 days, and their electricity is getting shut off, and it's the remake was not a bad piece of work. But I have not seen. I've seen maybe like a third or a fourth of the remake with Edward James Olmos, and
By the way, I don't think it's a stretch for me to say this, and I don't mean to be negative to Mr. Olmos and his legions of fans around the world, but not a handsome individual.
No, but his character in that show, it's so inspiring because he starts as an inner city school teacher teaching these kids calculus, and then apparently this impresses aliens enough that he's traveling through space later on. And that's because I don't know if people realize it, but Stand and Deliver, that's a prequel to, that's the same character that you see later in the Star Wars remake. But so we've talked before about the bubbles that we have in certain areas, well, especially New York, in certain parts of New York. I'm not going to blanket, I'm not going to take a broad brush and paint all of New York like this, but it's getting that way. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's almost no place left in New York where people can even afford rent if they're not ridiculously rich because of the gentrification. And a lot of that's been driven by the success of the financial markets.
You know what cleans up that gentrification is plaques. I've been using that for about the last month now.
Well, here's what's bizarre. You've got people buying condos in New York for like $100 million. All this money surging there because they see the success of the financial market. But none of these finance firms are expanding their workforce. They're all laying people off. They're all automating. The floor of the New York Stock Exchange is a ghost town. So people are buying property and real estate around the financial area thinking that all this wealth from Wall Street will lead to new financial jobs. And it would have in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. But in 2015, that's not how it works. If the Dow was at 100,000, you'd have, less people working. They take all that money. Financial firms are doing what all the other big corporations are doing, and they're factoring people out of the workforce. And people don't understand that. They think, well, there's money, and wherever there's money, jobs just appear. Yeah, cleaning the floor at the local Whole Foods, I'm sure that's they're adding jobs there, but they're not. And that sort of messes with people's heads because throughout human history, wherever there's been money, there's jobs. Someone has to put the horseshoes on the horses. Someone has to make the candles. Someone has to,
Someone has to make the candles out of the horses.
Exactly, when the circle of life, and that was true. The trickle down from the wealthy, hundreds of years ago, even a few decades ago, because of the lack of automation, or even during the industrial period, there were still a lot of things that had to be done by hand and were done locally. And you didn't have a sweatshop in shipping in your horseshoes. And now it's Meredith Whitney now. By the way, speaking of
whatever happened to Meredith Whitney, man, she was both very attractive and super smart. But the last time I thought about Meredith Whitney was when she was saying that bonds were about to tank, and that was the bottom.
Yeah,
her and Bill Gross both came out at the bottom.
Right, at the bottom. And now way up here, she's super bullish on the economy. Because of cheap gas.
Huh.
Which in the last 2 days, gasoline's gone up like 20%. But secondly, she's saying that because of cheap gas, factories are going to come back to the U.S. And I'm like, factories making what? And when they get here, with modern factories, with the amount of automation we have on the factory floor, what universe is she living in? First of all, let's say you're a corporation and you want to bring a factory to America, to any city, any province. You need 3 years ahead of time. You got to pick your site. You got to bribe all the officials. You got to get all the regulations. You cannot just bring a factory over here by helicopter and just drop it like you could have. I'm sure in 1810, if you wanted the factory, you went to the local orphanage, got a bunch of orphans, and they would, you would just poke them with bayonets so they built you a factory in like 5 days. And is
that what you would do? Just poke them with bayonets?
Well, yeah, you'd threaten to, I don't know, throw them in the river or something. And back then, if you even fell in the river, you just died because no one understood how pneumonia worked. And they would. It was a lot easier to just create jobs subtly.
Sure.
But her notion that
although I would say that it doesn't seem very subtle.
Well, that's
doesn't seem quite so subtle when you talk about not understanding pneumonia, and that seems a little bit the opposite of subtle.
They didn't. In the 19th century, you died from things that today you would laugh off. If you got a hangnail, they'd chop off half your body. But
for a hangnail, they just chop your body in half for a hangnail.
Just for a hangnail. But it's funny, this idea that factories are just going to come flooding back to the U.S. I've had Obama tell me, I've had other people tell me that for years. Manufacturing is going to come back to the U.S. You're going to have factories everywhere. Where the hell are these factories? They're nowhere near the major cities. You'll occasionally see like a Toyota commercial with some factory they built in the middle of nowhere with all the happy, the workers there. And occasionally that does happen, but I'll tell you statistically, like 9% of the population works in manufacturing right now. It's like 8 or 9%. There's no sign of a surge of manufacturing in this country. And people, again, need to understand that every year they need less and less and less people working on those floors, less and less people working in any kind of automated industry. It's factoring people out of the equation so fast that even if we get raw dog scenario where like the Chinese back their currency of gold and the dollar drops, I don't know, 70, 60, the dollar just plunges, and then Foxconn factories just pop up in the U.S. Well, by the time that happens, those factories will have like 4 people working the floor and about 300 robots. So if you're not one of those 4 people working the floor, you're kind of that's not gonna help.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what.
What do you think about the raw dog scenario that China and Russia are buying up all this gold and preparing to take down the U.S. with their gold-backed currency?
Well, it's kind of like Manarino always talking about the Russian bear and the return of the Russian Empire, and Russia is a demographically collapsing country.
Hold on, real quick. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to ask you a little clarification on something. Whenever I hear these folks talk about the return of the bear or whatever, I'm curious, when was Russia ever a superpower of note, other than when they had a bunch of weapons pointed at us? When were they ever some sort of economic juggernaut? When did that ever happen? I'm thinking through history. I'm trying to ask myself, when was Russia not someone's, doormat? When?
Well, that's the thing. Even at the height, of the communists, they're at the apex of their power. There was a massive black market in their country, getting Western goods in, run by the KGB, and it was massively corrupt even back then. So when people talk about, Putin's former KGB, well, good. He's really good at sneaking items in and out of his country in cars and fur coats and expensive wine, and that's good. That's a good skill to have, but it's been a very corrupt country for a while, and they've had a lot of economic problems going back, even at the height of their power.
Are you still fascinated like I am at all of the Ron Paul supporters in love with Putin? It's amazing to me.
Well, I'm starting to understand that cult, that weird, almost like cult of masculinity, where they're saying now Scott Walker is going to be president because of the success of the movie American Sniper.
No, they're not saying that. There's
a long article on CNBC. Here comes the Scott Walker presidency thanks to American Sniper, because people are going to want to elect, of course, another Texas governor that says outright he wants to send troops back to Iraq. Hey, if you want to elect another guy from Texas to send your kids to Iraq, and if you're excited about that.
Right, if you're interested in that, yeah.
If you think if that worked that well before,
right?
Which, by the way, I do see, and there's a lot of things I can't stand about the left, but this idea that the Iraq War actually went really well, right. And it was just written poorly, and history was distorted, but it actually went great, and we could have won it, and then Obama ruined it, and look, I've said outright, to really defeat ISIS, we need a ground war. We need to be serious about the fact that it will be like Vietnam. It will be really nasty. We'll get a lot of injured people, a lot of dead people. But Scott Walker, here's another guy, never served a day in his life. Not one day in his life. And he's so excited about leading us in the war. And why is it in 2015, with all these vets who came back from Iraq, that the Republicans can't put up one guy or find somebody who served in Iraq? I mean, there have to be people in their 30s and 40s, especially in their 40s, who served in Iraq, who could be politicians by now.
What about Norman Schwarzkopf? Stormin Norman.
I'm not sure if he's still alive. Norman.
By the way, that's a good question. Is Norman Schwarzkopf alive, and how old if he is alive, he's got to be pushing 80, right?
Well, the question is he and Wilford Brimley the same person?
I'm looking right now. Norman Schwarzkopf, born in 1934. That makes him, how old is that? 34 minus, he's 81. 81. Wow.
That's roughly Madonna's age, so.
Did you tell me? Oh yeah, you said you didn't watch the Super Bowl. Everybody, again.
Watch pro sports. I especially, I don't watch pro wrestling either.
Everybody, you're listening to Panama Orange, twitter.com/Panama Orange. I have a question for you that just loosely about what we're going to call the alternative media. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the folks who aligned themselves with Zero Hedge and Ron Paul the libertarians, the anarcho-capitalists, they would have said that they were pro-Constitution and they would be railing against any attempt at usurping the Constitution's powers. But here we are in 2015, and they are in love with Putin and money, which isn't constitutional, yet Bitcoins. And I just wonder, and Zero Hedge is their source of information. I just wonder what happened, and I'm maybe being philosophical about this. What happened? Where did the folks interested in the U.S. Constitution go? Did they just give up and?
It's kind of like, and we've seen this in the Republican Party for years. It's very weird where they're extreme. Some of them are very strict on following the Constitution, but then they're also really excited about getting in wars overseas, and it's
right.
very.
By the way,
they're really strict on budgets and not spending money. But if the military it's a blank check for the military. Do whatever the hell they want, spend whatever they want, don't question them. I
have to interject something here. I'm totally not kidding about this. When I search for Norman Schwarzkopf on Google, the number one link, in fact, go to Google, and let me give you this. Go to Google and tell me what the number one link, it's an ad, by the way. It's an ad. Let me send you, just in case you don't know how to spell Schwarzkopf. Let's see here. Can't find our conversation in Skype. It's awesome how Skype it makes it impossible to find who you're talking to. What the heck?
Just describe it to me. I'll use my...
No, I want you to see this. What the... Dude, this is ridiculous. Oh, here it is. Okay. Go search for that. Just search for Norman Schwarzkopf and tell me what the number one link you see on the page is. It's an ad.
Okay. Let's see. I'll go to Google, even though I'm a very big fan of Bing. Let's see.
I liked his early work. I like the David Bowie Christmas duet, Little Drummer Boy.
Let's see here. Schwarzkopf died in Tampa in 2012.
Okay, but scroll oh, he's not alive. Oh my goodness. No. Oh, I thought he was. Oh, rest in peace. I'm sorry. I thought that was his wife who died. I apologize. But what's the ad you see on the top? You have an ad there?
I've got ad blocker, unfortunately, because of my excessive piracy, where I'm going to pages that are constantly trying to infect me with Nigerian adware.
The number one, and this is now the title of the video. I was looking for a title. I'm always looking for a title. It is, no joke, Schwarzkopf Hair Care.
Oh, Jesus.
So there's the title of the video.
Schwarzkopf. That depleted uranium, it's really good for the healthier roots. If you got split ends, you just rub that depleted uranium in there. And
I didn't know. I mean, seriously, I didn't know he was dead. I mean, was he a hero? You think he was a hero? I think to define Schwarzkopf as a hero, you have to decide what you feel about the whole Iraq thing in the first place, don't you?
It's kind of like the Chris Kyle thing. Was Chris Kyle a hero? Yeah. Did he also have a problem with making up stories and getting caught making up stories later on? Yes.
I don't know who Chris Kyle is.
Come on, The American Sniper?
That's a movie. I know that.
It's like the number one movie. It's made more money than Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, come on. What are you talking about?
It's made more money than Saving Private Ryan.
Come on. What?
I'm not kidding. That's an actual fact. Hit the news today. It's made more money in the box office than Saving Private Ryan. Okay. So.
All right. Well, everybody, go check out his stuff. It's at twitter.com/Panama Orange. Twitter.com/Panama Orange. One of these days, you got to get PanamaOrange.com. You're going to have to do that because you'll need to start, having a members site. You would have the most interesting members site. The interesting conversations that would take place at your website. Why don't you do that?
Well, the problem is I'd have to cut in the Illuminati on all my profits, and I've gotten shaken down by them quite a few times.
I thought you were going to say when you started saying shaken, I thought maybe you were going to talk that you'd have to pay them in Shake Shack stock or something like that.
That's quite. Although a lot of them are lactose intolerant. So, but I mean, speaking of websites, there's also my SoundCloud page, Panama Orange SoundCloud.
It's funny. Not a lot of people have apparently checked that out because I'm sure if they had, we'd hear about it.
Well, you'd hear the complaints. Yes, you'd hear the.
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah, that's right. Maybe I should put that in the video as your link and not twitter.com/
Hey, that would be fine. Yeah, you put SoundCloud because there's a lot of you can hear all sorts of interesting things about.
Yeah, but you don't really believe that stuff, though, and then that's the thing. I mean, let's be fair about this. You don't really believe that stuff.
Don, I absolutely everything I've said in those interviews to SoundCloud. None of that's embellished. None of it's exaggerated. None of it's metaphorical. That's all stuff that really happened. I mean, I've.
No, but you know it didn't, though. I mean, come on.
No, it did happen. I remember. I'm the only guru, not Pastor Lindsey Williams, not Greg Manarino. As much as as much as a likable guy as he is, I'm the only guy who predicted that shopping malls will become a major focal point of civil unrest, as they were with these Ferguson protesters who shut them down. 3 of them down on Black Friday. The Mall of America. I probably saw that in the news. That was shut down. And hell, I was talking about that 5 years ago, based on what I was involved in and what I got involved in during Katrina.
Huh.
But yeah, there's nothing there that's I don't say things I don't believe.
Nah, I didn't say you didn't believe it. Did I say that? I might have asked that. I just dispute that. That's all. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, unlike Chris Kyle, I don't exaggerate. No, I don't. I really.
I don't know what Chris Kyle did. I don't know what he did.
Well, here's the thing. He did a lot of, in Iraq, a lot of very heroic things. But then he claimed to shoot 2 carjackers, here in Texas, and they did a follow-up, couldn't find any record anyone was killed. He claimed to have punched out Jesse Ventura, and Jesse Ventura wasn't even in the state at the time, and in fact Ventura sued his estate in court and won, right. By the way.
Really? Seriously?
Yes,
okay,
won that case. So it was proven in court that story couldn't have happened. And then there was a story where Chris Kyle claims he was on the roof of the Superdome during Katrina, went down there and shot 30 looters, or 30, dangerous.
Now you have to understand, you're talking to people in the audience who know what you're talking about. This Chris Kyle individual, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's 3 separate stories he's in. Now, I know for a fact the story of the Superdome. I know for 100% certainty that could not have happened. I knew cops that were in the Superdome that I knew very well, who were literally... There was no getting to the roof of the Superdome, just like there wasn't getting to the basement of the Alamo. The Superdome was a curved roof. It was severely damaged in the storm. There was nowhere to stand up there, but more importantly, there was no looting within 1,200 to 1,500 yards, which is sniping distance, of the Superdome at all outside. There was chaos inside the Superdome, but you couldn't get out because it was a swimming pool. You went just 10 feet out the door to Superdome. It was a lake, and there was nothing to loot. That's why people in the Superdome were freaking out, attacking each other, because they couldn't even get out, and they were sort of locked in there, caged like rats. So his story of being on the roof and shooting people outside the dome, completely impossible.
Why would but why would someone? I mean, that seems like something that would be fairly easy to document. Why would he say he punched out Jesse Ventura? Why would he say he was shooting people from the top of the Superdome?
30. He claims he shot 30, and you would have had 30 bodies after the water went down with bullets through their head sitting around.
You're telling me this guy that they made a movie about that is more money than Saving Private Ryan. You're saying he claims to have shot 30 people in Katrina?
Yes. You can look this up anywhere. Yes.
I'm looking it up right now. I'm going to Snopes.com. Says American sniper subject Chris Kyle, claim, American sniper subject Chris Kyle shot dozens of looters after Hurricane Katrina. Killed 2 attempted carjackers and punched Jesse Ventura in the face. And it says that this is false.
None of it can be confirmed at all.
Right, it's a very long article about this. Huh.
I mean,
why would he say this stuff? Why would he say this stuff?
Until I heard the Superdome story, I actually sided with him because, let's be honest, Ventura has deserved to have been punched in the face many times. The guy's a complete...
Oh, come on.
He was
a mayor, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was...
Was he a mayor, or was he a congressman? What did he do?
He was governor.
Oh, that's right.
He was governor of Minnesota or something. But anyways, there was a show he did called Conspiracy Theory, and he confronted David Icke one time. And it's funny, he misses David Icke's lecture. shows up late because Jesse Ventura, by the way, get this, he will not fly in airplanes because he refuses to be touched by TSA. So he takes the train everywhere. He shows up late for the lecture, and David Icke's like, well, did you see any of my lecture? He's like, no. He's like, well, did you read any of my book? No. He said, like, I ain't got time to read your book or something. And this was supposed to be a show where Ventura is investigating.
I saw the Jesse Ventura David Icke thing. I watched that. I've seen that. And
it's too bad Ike didn't, at least kick him in the...
Wait. Ike, you cannot tell me anything that guy says you take as anything more than just windbaggery. You don't really, come on.
A lot of what he has talked about with bloodlines and the reptilians and all that, that's absolutely true.
No. Hold on. Well, that's for another discussion. We'll talk about...
That's another discussion, but most of what he says, I would say, maybe 70% of what he says is absolutely 100%. That's how it is.
Goodness gracious.
Yes.
Goodness gracious. Everybody, it's Panama. It's go to his site, check him out.
But you asked, why would Chris Kyle make these things up? And the answer is, it's very strange, but he has been caught. And the one, had I not heard the looter story about the Superdome, I would have been inclined to believe him like everyone else. You think, well, this guy, why would he make these other stories up? And then he makes up a story that, from my own experiences on the police during Katrina, that I know could not have possibly happened. That I can give you 5 reasons why that couldn't have happened. So that turns out he really was a pathological liar. And it makes you wonder, well, why? Well, a guy who's got so much making these other things up. Well, here's a possibility. It's possible the government had recruited him to do psychological operations and to say these stories. And why they wanted him to say these things? Well, Ventura has been a thorn in the government side for a while. He was intimidated. He claimed when he became governor, the CIA set him in a room and tried to intimidate him. And so they'd have him make Ventura look bad. They'd have him claim, they needed a cover story for Katrina because, the government was involved in things during Katrina. They had reptilians in the area and all sorts of crazy things. But
yeah.
So it's possible it's possible Kyle was literally being given a script to say these things for the intelligence community as like a psyops, because people would believe whatever he said because he had the pedigree. So maybe he wasn't lying, and maybe they were literally, this was a psychological operation that he was doing. And so if that's true, then that's every government does that. I mean, look at the crap North Korea puts out every day that they just make up and say things. And so maybe it was because I was racking my brain for like a week. Like, why would a guy, if you've got so much to be proud of, why are you making up all this other shit? And the other possibility is he's some kind of adrenaline junkie, and part of the adrenaline is making up stories on top of what you did and then seeing if people will figure it out. And then when they don't, you get emboldened and you do more of it. And since, he had this aura around him from what he did, where he could say anything and people would just take it at face value. Kind of like Putin, or kind of like certain people on YouTube. They could say anything, and there's certain people on YouTube, and you know what I mean. They can come out and say the sky is green, and it would just be a fact. It would be you would type in Wikipedia, what color is the sky, and someone would have changed it. Sky is green. It said.
We have so much more we could talk about. We're out of time, but. I want to send you a link in Skype, but I don't want you to say what it is you're looking at. Okay, you can't say what it is. Okay. This is absolutely real, and this would be a great thing for us to start a conversation on next time we talk. This is absolutely...
I presume it's your official shill paycheck from J.P. Morgan.
Yes, that's what that is. Yes, no. This is real. Go click on that link.
Okay.
That's actually real. Look at it right now, and I want to get your response. Don't say what it is. I just want your reaction to what it is. It's real. This is real. This is not. This is real. Does that look? What do you think? What do you think? What's your response to that? And we could begin a discussion about that in the next time we talk, because it really does dovetail into something you've talked about before about what's coming down.
Wow.
Does that look? What do you think? Do you have any words to describe how you feel about that?
This is a paradigm shift.
It is a paradigm shift. A mouth-watering paradigm shift.
As Art Bell with this synchronicity, even though he had no idea what that word meant.
As Art Bell said, what now?
He would always throw on the word synchronicity, even though it was obvious he had no idea what the definition of the word was. But he'd randomly attach it to things. So I will say that this is an instance of synchronicity.
And the title of this video is now shifted for the third time. It was going to be the Bitcoin Barn Raiser. Then it was Schwarzkopf Hair Care. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you now with a mouth-watering paradigm shift. Panama, thanks for being here. Everybody go check out his website at twitter.com/Panama Orange or
SoundCloud Panama Orange.
SoundCloud, that's at soundcloud.com Panama Orange, where you'll find nothing but gobbledygook, with all due respect, but enjoy. You still like me?
Yeah. I not as much as Raw Dog still likes you, and you guys like each other. Well, you guys have to do videos every... Oh, wait, we still like each other. You know, it'd be great if you guys put out a video in a month. You know what? We just completely hate each other now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I can't stand that guy. Oh, God. This makes me sick.
All right, everybody. See ya, Panama. And by the way, we should have a show we do where we bring people on that hang out with us and talk with us. Wouldn't that be fun?
We should. We should indeed. That's... Should get Kenny, what's his name on here?
Kenny Chesney? Kenny
Chesney, who runs Hit the Bed.
Kenny Wayne Shepherd?
I have no idea what his last name is. I really don't.
Kenny Rogers? Kenny Loggins?
That's, the gambler, that is my creed. I actually have a laminated lyric card of the gambler in my wallet.
In all sincerity, I believe you. I do. Everybody, that's it. Panama Orange. Panama, take care, man.
All right.